Okay, can somebody say something so I can see whether or not this is still set up properly?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. It seems to be working correctly.
Good.
Excellent.
Marilyn.
Let's get this picture.
Okay, Merlin, just I will deal with your pictures later, okay, buddy?
Okay.
Okay, Nolan.
Phoenix, are you reading tonight? Yes. Okay.
There's some left of it. Like this.
Okay, Merlin, thank you. Careful.
Seti is en route. Oh, so he'll probably be reading then too, so that's good. Maybe I can put him here. There he is. Which just involves Seti cooing slightly tipsily at people with a machete in his feet.
Seti's ready, he's got the machete. He's getting to cut up some spaghetti. Knees weak, palms sweaty. Are you ready for Seti with a machete?
No.
Oh.
I couldn't catch half of that with this cold.
Hey, Mom.
You don't understand, like, Seti has a dexterity with his feet not meant for humankind. It's the weirdest fucking thing. It's like he's got bird feet. They're very grabby. It's not okay. It's not okay. No, you don't understand, Max. No, you don't understand. He made that noise at me in real life and then proceeded to grab my arm and try to dislocate it with his fucking feet.
That was actually when I discovered the noise.
You don't understand. He was. You might not have. No, you were there. Why can I hear myself? I hear an echo.
I don't know.
I could hear that as well.
Is it me?
It's Ame. No, if you're a bird, he's cooing. Yeah, I guess you're close to a spot where you can get a feedback. No, I understand, Ame. Okay. Oh man, Nem's not here, so I can't do the. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess the easiest solution is just to close it unless you're talking. I don't know, because then there's no like echo. No, I know. I'm just saying. Seti, are you reading tonight?
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, Jaeger's not here. Though. And Ame's voice is kind of, well, she's sick. I mean, hopefully he's coming. He didn't tell me he wasn't. Let me poke them on Steam to remind him. Give me a moment.
Put it. Class up.
Merlin, I don't want to do anything right now.
I'll tell you. And Chanel says,
Merlin,
nope.
Mama does not have much energy. Please don't stress me out, hun. I love you, but Mama can't really take much right now.
Jared.
Well, I sent him a message, but he's offline, so I don't know if Nem's coming tonight. So I guess just hold off on Soto stuff because Ame can't read, Jaeger's not here, and Nem's not here. So it would be probably better to hold off on Soto stuff. No, I don't think we're raiding. We might as well start. We're 20 minutes past. And I don't know where Nem or Jaeger are, so we might as well just go. Yeah. There's no point in, well,
Jaeger just came
know.
on, actually.
Wait, what? Did he really?
Yeah, he just popped up in my nearby avatars, and yeah, he's online too, so...
Oh! Okay, well cool, we'll wait for him to get here then.
Yep.
Didn't even... Because he left his Skype on, so I didn't know that he had gotten on. That was the thing.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, there he is. So I guess we'll wait for him to come up. It's still a little iffy on the Soto. Do you want to try and go for it anyway, Max? And have... I don't know if we have the required... Maybe it would be better to hold off until next week, because we don't know where Nem is, and Ame can't read for Kelly. Well, okay, I mean, it's your work, you kind of have to have some input on it. You know, it's a little bit difficult to get things settled when you just are sitting there being passive. Alright, that's all I needed, was either yes, let's try and do this, or no, let's wait till next time. Perfect, thank you. Do you have... Well, he's offline completely, so I don't know if he'll be showing tonight. Do you have other stuff that you'd like read, like other OC? I know you said you were working on spy stuff. So why don't you go ahead with spy stuff tonight, and Soto next week? That works. Okay. It said he stopped that. That was not the time for that. He's sitting there laying like 1 million eggs. Ame threw out a ball and it made him lay like 20 billion eggs. Ame, what have you done? Well, I guess they're technically food? What happens when a male bird lays eggs?
They typically don't.
No, but this is happening, so... Well, I guess, would it See, now I'm just trying to figure out, like, biologically speaking, would it automatically be fertilized? Or would it be unfertilized?
I'm curious, he said. Perhaps you'll humor me about this. Just exactly what is your relationship with Draco? Draco? I blinked, expecting to be asked anything but that. I have no relationship with Draco. It's a null set. Then your coming here to refuge was simply a coincidence. Nothing more. I glanced away to where Mia was standing with Henjin and Perrymead. I saw her hand Joby into his uncle's arms. A smile was on all the faces. No, I murmured. I looked back at him. But if you mean, was I a croach for the feds? No, not until you foisted on me. His mouth twisted again. He took a drink off a drifting tray and sipped it pointedly. The tray floated toward me. I took one too and swallowed it down. I see, he said. Then would you tell me why you have Draco's logo tattooed on your hip? He glanced down as he could see through my clothes. I frowned, wondering whether his augmented eyes actually could. How do you... Your contract labor records, he said. It's not Draco's logo. I shook my head, still frowning. It's just a lizard. It's Draco's logo, he said flatly. Do you really think I don't know what that looks like? I laughed. I don't even remember how it got there, I said. But thanks for letting me know. I'll think of you every time I sit down. I turned my back on him and moved away. I crossed the room to the one small knot of people I felt halfway safe with. The mixed cluster of humans and hydrants with Mia at its heart. She was talking to Cassandra. They looked up together as she sensed me. Cassandra smiled and moved away, touching my arm briefly as she made a place for me by Mia's side. "We were talking about the reefs," she said, as if she wanted me to know why they hadn't been talking about me. Ways of learning more about the healing factor at the monastery, without disturbing it. The treaty we'd come here to witness made the last reef a federal environment reserve, off limits to any Combine's exploitation. Tau had howled at that, just as they howled at the new laws forcing them to begin integrating hydrants into their human workforce. From what I'd seen Mia do, and what I'd done myself, I knew that even those changes ate holes in the human population's collective gut like acid. They weren't simply justice, they were right and wise and good for everyone. I hope that one day Tau might look back and wonder why it had taken them so long to make it happen. The odds of that weren't good, but they were better than nothing, which is why they'd been before.
You should go pick up dinner before it's too late.
Alright.
About the symbiosis between the cloud whales and the community, and interpreting the data, Cassandra was saying. It took me a moment to realize she was still talking about the reefs. She broke off.
Can't watch that.
"You are going to work with us again, aren't you?"
Why the stream was
I smiled. "Try and stop me. Why is this taking so long?"
Hope you're proud of yourself.
Neo came up behind Mia, her hands worrying her sleeves like nervous animals. I remembered Mia's restless hands when I had first met her.
I know, what is that?
"Where are the Tau people? Is this some trick?" "No, of course not," Perrymead said. He didn't finish it, as her stares set off his own doubt and concern. "They will be here," Hanjin said, his voice even, his eyes willing his foster daughter to believe him. "Where's Natasha?" I asked, looking up at Joby, who was riding contentedly on Perrymead's shoulders. I glanced at Mia, feeling the part of my mind, the part of her strength, the part of her love that would always stay with me, just as I could feel a part of it that would always belong to me. I imagined what a difference it would make to both humans and hydrants if they could open themselves to the possibilities I saw every time I looked into her eyes and Joby's. "He should be arriving with the others," Perrymead said. "They've been talking about making him the new district administrator here at Riverton, since Rosage is being transferred." "Transferred?" Neo said sharply. I knew from the look she gave Mia that she was demanding an explanation, and that she didn't like the answer she got. "He's going to prison, right?" I demanded. "He's not getting out of this. There's too much evidence of too many things he's done." I looked away from Perrymead, searching for Ronan. "Here's the town delegation now," he murmured, and left my side abruptly. Neo watched him go, her expression darkening. "Neo," Mia said. The word was both a question and a warning. She put a hand on her sister's arms as if she was trying to bring her back to reality. Neo slapped her hand away without touching her. Mia backed off, but her eyes stayed on her sister's face. I stopped watching them both as the new town board entered the room, in flesh this time, not in virtual. All of them were strangers to me, which was good. They were as expressionless as the line of sticks. Rosage was with them. He was still in uniform, and heading a security team wearing Tau colors. Disbelief caught me by the throat. I jerked my stare away from him, telling myself it was just a formality, that there was no way in hell he could have survived the corporate massacre when the entire Tau board had been deposed. He looked toward us as they crossed the room, and his eyes were filled with hate. The mind behind them was as unreadable to me as any of the rest were. Mia? I murmured, but then I saw that Natasa had come in with the Tau delegation. He broke away from the formation, and his rigid, unsmiling face came to life as he spotted Joby and started toward us. Mia didn't answer me as Joby's attention drew her own to his father. "Daddies!" Joby cried, looking from me to Natasa, delighted. Natasa's smile widened, and he held out his arms, and then Mia's concentration was entirely focused on making the reunion all it should be. I glanced at Neo, went on watching her as she watched Barosage. She looked at him with the way prey would watch a hunter, or a hunter would watch prey. The Tau VIPs flowed into the waiting mass of Draco VIPs.
Alright, but it has to be really
FTA observers and Hydron Council members.
I've been waiting on you for dinner.
Until they were all one indistinguishable mass of shifting colors and loyalties. They greeted each other with a superficial goodwill but profoundly relieved. All of them were hoping their separate ordeals were finally over. All of them were trying to believe that even if this wasn't a position they ever wanted to find themselves in, it was better than the alternative. A chime sounded, signaling that the ratification of ceremony was beginning. The crowd began to navigate toward the wide doorway that led into the main hall, where the treaty waited at the center of an elaborate tech display, each segment glowing on a separate screen, hypertext ramifications and clarifications bordering them like halos of delightment, of enlightenment. I leaned against a pillar, closing my eyes. The playback of a synthesized voice I recognized as Ronan's began to recite the terms of the agreement aloud, in case anyone here hadn't bothered to study it beforehand. I let the terms of Tau's penance wash over me like cool water, leaving a pristine surface of possibility. Tau and indie media hypers were everywhere among the people assembled here, recording every nuance as how humans and hydrants laid the foundation for the future they were about to share, like it or not. I checked off the terms of the treaty against the agenda in my head, my respect for Ronan climbing a notch with every need that was met, lifting the restrictions of technological exchange between humans and hydrants, amnesty for all imprisoned hydrants, rehab and training programs, quotas for integrating hydrants into the human workforce, no more tampering with the magnetosphere to redirect the cloud whale's journeys, and for the contract laborers, strict regulation of work safety conditions at all Tau installations, with FTA inspection teams on site for the indefinite future. Tau would argue that they would never survive restrictions like that their economy would collapse. The FTA's response had been adapt and try, or die now. Draco had had to back them up or lose more face, and face more trade restrictions on the rest of its hegemony. Caught between those pincers of power, even Tau couldn't squirm free. I listened to the members of the new Tau board mouth optimistic platitudes as one by one they touched the display, committing their approval to the permanent record. I wondered how surprised they'd be if it actually turned out to be better. I suppose you think this is all you're doing, Breed, a voice said behind me. I turned around, abruptly face to face with Barosage. I barely controlled my urge to hit him in the face, to wipe that smugness off it, to force him back behind the invisible line he'd crossed into my personal space. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile instead. Pretty much. I should have killed you when I had the chance, he muttered, his face barely changing expression. He glanced away. Too bad you won't be staying on refuge long enough to see what really happens to all your big ideas. What makes you think I won't? I folded my arms, leaning against the pillar again. You're being deported. I sucked in a breath. held it while the words tried to paralyze my brain. I think you heard it backward, I said finally. You're not going to be around to see all it work out, because you're about to do some heavy time, you drug-dealing sadistic piece of shit. He shook his head. A smile spread over his face like a stain. Not me, boy. Fad's taking my fall. I'm still standing. I'm not stupid. I knew the board and that cocksucker Sand would try and download the blame onto me. I could see where it was leading. They thought they'd take me down, but I got them first. I have my ways. He tapped the metal half-dome covering his head. I have records of things you wouldn't believe, things I would never even suspected I knew about them. I realized he must have spent his drug profits hot-wiring his brain with undetectable snare. I knew where all the bodies are buried, and who ordered them dead. Why do you think I'm still here, boy, when not a single member of the old Tau board is? I glanced away at the last of the signers putting their seal on the official record. Applause that sounded as artificial as static. It was done. Something in my head insisted. It was done, and there was nothing he could do to change that. Nothing more he could do to hurt anyone I cared about. Not even me. I searched the crowd, trying to catch Perrymead's eye or Ronan's. I saw Neo staring back at me, at the Rosage beside me as if we were magnetic north. I'm still in charge here, Rosage muttered, and while I am, no freak will ever feel safe on this side of the river, and that includes you, boy, especially you. He raised his hand. I backed up a step, my fist clenching, and hated myself for it. Rosage. It wasn't until I saw the sudden rage fill his face that I realized I'd only heard someone call out his name in my mind. He turned around. Neo was standing beside us, her eyes slit pupilled. I told you never to do that to me, you hydrant bitch. Her face didn't change. So you are still in charge, then? She said out loud this time. That is the human way. Destroy your enemies before they can destroy you. He smirked. You know it, sweet thing. You know me real well. He reached out, touched her cheek with a thick finger. I saw her barely stop herself from cringing away. So now I'm safe and you're forgiven. It'll go back to being the way it was, business as usual between you and me, and your people. A tremor cracked her control. Neo, I whispered, don't. I thought that she'd ignored me, except that suddenly I couldn't move. No, she said, her gaze still on Barosage. I will never be forgiven, and you are not safe. I felt the power shift focus inside her, felt it building. Saw terror fill Barosage's face as she invaded his mind and took him over. A high, thin whine started in his throat. He began to drool. Mia, I called with blind desperation. Mia! Neo glanced at me distractedly, as if she heard me, and an odd smile played over her lips before she looked back at Barosage. Are you ready to die, monster? She said, inside his mind and somehow inside mine. Feel your brain. Feel each cell in it begin to... Neo! Suddenly Mia was there between us, and inside our heads. Her hands closed on Neo's shoulders as if she was trying to physically wrench Neo out of her homicidal nightmare. Neo's fist shot out, caught Mia squarely in the face, dropping her like a stone in the unexpectedness of the attack. Neo looked back at Barosage, whose face had turned a mottled purple. He was making a sound now like he'd been gut shot. I stood there, helpless to do anything but watch. Mia struggled to her feet with blood running down her chin. She looked away toward the place where the crowd was still going through the motions of the human ritual. Abruptly, the empty doorway held a figure. Hanjins. Help us! I shouted, but I didn't know whether he heard me. I saw his eyes widen. Before he could move, Sand was standing beside him. Sand laid a heavy hand on his shoulder, murmuring something in his ear. I saw Hanjin's face slowly crushed by emotions I couldn't feel as he stood watching us, but doing nothing to stop what was happening. He screamed with anguish and frustration, but only inside my head. She stood immobilized like I was now, watching while Neo turned Barosage's brain to jelly in front of our eyes. I saw blood and something worse begin to leak from his nose. His eyes rolled up in his head. His body spasmed in the air like a palsied puppet, when it should have been twitching on the floor. Neo's eyes flooded with tears, her face contorted as she embraced an agony I felt in my soul. Barosage screamed, and it was a death cry ripped from a living corpse. Neo screamed with him as his death fed back through the circuit of insane rage that joined them like lovers. I felt my own heart stumble and realized that Mia and I were trapped inside the circuit. My vision strobed, black, white, and then suddenly the horror in front of us was happening to someone else. Pitched forward on his face, no longer a prisoner of Neo's vengeance. By the time he hit the floor, he was only a sack of meat, lying face down in a spreading pool of blood. Neo collapsed on top of him, her eyes wide and staring. Her pupils were pits of blackness, and blood ran from her nose. I swayed, barely staying on my feet as I suddenly regained control of my body. Mia staggered forward. She collapsed in my arms, sobbing. The sound was hard and pitiless, and at the molten core of her mind there was the same white-hot sun of fury that had destroyed her sister. "I love you," I mumbled, trying desperately to reach her. "I love you, Mia. Don't leave me." She looked up, her green eyes tearless, even though her voice still sobbed out grief. She took my face in her hands. Her mind filled me with tenderness, yearning, love as pure and limitless as if the two of us existed only in our souls, looking down like the Anlir, untouched by anything earthbound, even the blood that pooled around our feet. "I can hear you. I thought, with incredulous joy. I realized that in that split second before Neo had died with Barosage, Mia had broken free, protecting us from the feedback of their deaths. But she buried her face in my tunic, as if she could never shut enough of it out. The room, the horror, the truth. A mob of guards and gaping onlookers were already gathered around us. We held each other up, held each other together, held on to each other like drowners in a nightmare sea, like refugees. What happened here? Sand was standing in front of us now. His indignation was almost believable. Behind him, a dozen corpses were pointing their guns at us. Like you don't know, I said thickly. Like you didn't let it happen. Sand glared a warning at me. They're dead. She killed them, and it killed her. It? Sand snapped. It what? The feedback, Mia muttered. It's what happens when a scion kills. It's what happened to me, I said. He went on looking at me. Only the muscles in his jaw told me that he kept himself from saying something. He lifted his hand, brought it down. The guns went away. The ring of guards backed off, taking the crowd with them. Let me just stop right there for now. It's about halfway through.
That is a very long.
Well, that was a nice story, but my friend just came
Very
over,
long chapter.
so I'm gonna have to leave.
Bye.
I
And he
It
said
was
hi.
it was nice of you to show up around, man.
And hey, that was a cool story. So yeah, I'll try to make it to the next SNR and maybe the next say night step.
Set. Yeah, you know what you're gonna do. Oh, bless you.
That wasn't okay. Thank you for the
I like how both
stuff.
Jaeger and me say that to you, you know.
Yeah, I like I hiccup and I just get blessed. I'm glad Velocich finally ate shit and died. It was good. He was a dick.
That was
Put
a
it
good
lightly.
death, and not like he died honorably. I mean, that was a really good way to kill somebody. Like, if you had to kill
He
somebody
got turned
really,
into a potato sack.
that's how you kill him. That's how you do it.
Yeah. Alright, I
You
had
do that, or
down.
you like. Sorry.
Burn.
I had you down for next city. I don't know if you're ready.
Said he's always ready.
Alright,
He's weak,
then
pump, sweaty. Ready yourselves
us
for mom
some-
spaghetti.
read us some.
No. Then
You
you
just stop rolling in the mouth.
Dear listeners, that's in the previous. I'm glaring audibly. Did you have something to say?
No.
Our previous listeners will remember that in the last chapter, our hero Latimer, or the sad soul we happened to be following, happened to book a train to Macedonia. On the way, he met Mr. Peters, who was a man who apparently didn't sleep and read the same book over and over and over again. So, in the semi-darkness of the compartment, the fat man's smile looked like a clown's grimace. "Please don't trouble yourself about me," he said. "I was not asleep. I meant to tell you that the best hotel for you to stay at would be..." His eagerness to get a bath and some breakfast, it did not occur to Latimer to wonder how Mr. Peters had discovered his name. Chapter 5, 1923. Latimer had thought carefully about the problem which awaited him in Sofia. Allow me to check the pages of this chapter. These are all usually very short, which is lovely. This one actually might be lengthy, so I might have to chop it in half. Let's see. It goes from page 87 from 68 to 87. Yeah, I'm going to want to slice this in half here. Okay. Latimer had thought carefully about the problem which awaited him in Sofia. In Smyrna and Athens, it had been simply a matter of gaining access to written records. Any competent private inquiry agents could have found out as much. Now, however, things were different. Demetrios had to be sure as to the part Demetrios had played. That information, even if he did obtain it, might turn out to be quite useless as a basis for anything but a communist pamphlet. That the information, even if he did obtain it, might turn out to be quite useless as a basis for anything but a communist pamphlet, was a contingency that he was not from the moment prepared to consider. He was beginning to like his experiment and was unwilling to abandon it so easily. If he were to die, he would see that it died hard. Rather, if he were to die, he would see that it died hard. On the afternoon of his arrival, he sought out Marukakis at the office of the French news agency and presented his letter of introduction. The Greek was a dark, lean man of middle age with intelligent, rather bulbous eyes and a way of bringing his lips together at the end of a sentence, as though he were amazed at his own lack of discretion. He greeted Latimer with the watchful courtesy of a negotiator in an armed truce. He spoke in French. "What information is it that you need, monsieur?" "As much as you can give me about the Stambuliski affair of 1923. Marukakis raised his eyebrows. "So long ago. I shall have to refresh my memory." No, it is no trouble. I will gladly help you. Give me an hour. If you could have dinner with me at my hotel this evening, I should be delighted. Where are you staying? The Grand Palace. We can get a better dinner than that at a fraction of the cost. If you like, I will call for you at 8 o'clock and take you to the place. Agree? Certainly. Good. At 8 o'clock, then. Au revoir. He arrived punctually at 8 o'clock that evening and led the way in silence across the Boulevard Maria Luise, up the Rue Alabinska, to a small side street. Halfway along it, there was a grocer's shop. Marukakis stopped. He looked suddenly self-conscious. It does not look very much, he said doubtfully, but the food is sometimes very good. Would you rather go to a better place? Oh no, I'll leave it to you. Marukakis looked relieved. I thought I had better ask you, he said, and pushed open the door of the shop. The doorbell tinkled musically. The interior of the shop was so crowded with stock that it seemed little larger than a telephone booth. On all sides rose scrubbed pine wood shelves, crammed carelessly with bottles and curious-looking groceries. Festooned around the shelves and hanging in cascades from the ceiling like lush tropical fruits were sausages of almost every conceivable size and color. In the midst of it all, leaning against a rampart of meal sacks behind the scales, was a stout woman nursing a baby. She grinned and said something to them. Marukakis answered, and motioning Latimer to follow him, skirted some of the crocks of pickled cucumbers, dived under a string of goat's milk cheeses, and pushed open a door leading into a passage. At the end of the passage was the restaurant. It was very little larger than the shop, but by some extraordinary means 5 tables had been arranged in it. 2 of the tables were occupied by a group of men and women noisily eating soup. They sat down at a third. A mustachioed man in shirt sleeves and a green baize apron lounged over and addressed them in voluble Bulgarian. I think you had better order, said Latimer. Marukakis said something to the waiter, who twirled his moustache and lounged away, shouting at a dark opening in the wall that looked like the entrance to the cellar. A voice could be heard faintly acknowledging the order. The man returned with a bottle and 3 glasses. I have ordered vodka, said Marukakis. I hope you like it. Very much. Good. The waiter filled the 3 glasses, took one for himself, and nodded to Latimer, and throwing his head back, poured the vodka down his throat. Then he walked away. A votre santé, said Marukakis politely. Now, he went on as they set their glasses down, that we have drunk together, and that we are comrades, I can be frank. He pressed his lips together and frowned. I cannot stand it, he burst out suddenly, when people are not straightforward with me. I am a Greek, and a Greek can smell a lie. That is why Greek businessmen are so successful in France and England. As soon as I read the letter you brought me, I smelt a lie. But more than a lie, it is an insult to the intelligence to suggest that the information for which you are asking could be of any possible use in the roman policier. I am sorry, said Latimer uncomfortably. The real reason I want this information from you is so peculiar that I hesitated to give it. The last person to whom I gave information this way, said Marukakis dourly, was writing a popular guide to European politics à l'américaine. I was ill for a week when I finally read it. Ill, you understand, not in the body, but in the mind. I have a respect for facts, and the book was very painful to me. I'm not writing a book. Marukakis smiled. You English are so self-conscious. Look, I will make a bargain with you. I will give you the information, and then you shall tell me these peculiar reasons of yours. Does that go? It goes. Very well, then. Soup was put before them. It was thick and highly spiced and mixed with sour cream. As they ate it, Marukakis began to talk. In a dying civilization, political prestige is the reward not of the shrewdest diagnostician, but of the man with the best bedside manner. It is the decoration conferred on mediocrity by ignorance. Yet there remains one sort of political prestige that may still be worn with a certain pathetic dignity. It is that given to the liberal-minded leader of a party of conflicting doctrinaire extremists. His dignity is that of all doomed men. For, whether the 2 extremes proceed to mutual destruction, or whether one of them prevails, doomed he is, either to suffer the hatred of the people, or to die as a martyr. Thus it was with Monsieur Stamboliski, leader of the Bulgarian Peasant Agrarian Party, Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs. The Agrarian Party, faced by organized reaction, was immobilized, rendered powerless by its own internal conflicts. It died without firing a shot in its own defense. The end began soon after Stambuliski returned to Sofia early in January 1923 from the Lausanne Conference. On 23 January, the Yugoslav, then Serbian, government lodged an official protest in Sofia against a series of armed raids carried out by the Bulgarian Komitaji over the Yugoslav frontier. A few days later, on 5th February, during a performance celebrating the foundation of the National Theatre in Sofia, at which the king and princesses were present, a bomb was thrown into the box in which sat several government ministers. The bomb exploded. Several persons were injured. Both the authors and objects of these outrages were readily apparent. From the start, Stambuliski's policy toward the Yugoslav government had been one of appeasement and conciliation. Relations between the two countries had been improving rapidly, but an objection to this improvement came from the Macedonian autonomists, represented by the notorious Macedonian Revolutionary Committee, which operated both in Yugoslavia and in Bulgaria. Fearing that friendly relations between the two countries might lead to joint action against them, the Macedonians set to work systematically to poison these relations and to destroy their enemy, Stambuliski. The attacks of these Komitaji and the theater incident inaugurated a period of organized terrorism. On 8th March, Stambuliski played his trump card by announcing that the Narodno Sobradni would be dissolved on the 13th and the new elections would be held in April. This was a disaster for the reactionary parties. Bulgaria was prospering under the agrarian government. The peasants were solidly behind Stambuliski. An election would have established him even more securely. The funds of the Macedonian Revolutionary Committee increased suddenly. Almost immediately, an attempt was made to assassinate Stambuliski and his Minister of Railways, Atanasov, at Haskovo on the Thracian frontier. It was frustrated only at the last moment. Several police officials responsible for suppressing the activities of the Komitaji, including the prefect of Petric, were threatened with death. In the face of these menaces, the elections were postponed. Then, on 4th June, the Sofia police discovered a plot to assassinate not only Stambuliski, but also Muraviev, the war minister, and Stoyanov, the minister of the interior. A young army officer, believed to have been given the job of killing Stoyanov, was shot dead by the police in the gunfight. Other young officers, also under the orders of the terrorist committee, were known to have arrived in Sofia, and a search for them was made. The police were beginning to lose control of the situation. Now was the time for the agrarian party to have acted, to have armed their peasant supporters, but they did not do so. Instead, they played politics among themselves. For them, the enemy was the Macedonian Revolutionary Committee, a terrorist gang, a small organization quite incapable of ousting government, entrenching hundreds of thousands of peasant votes. They failed to perceive that the activities of the committee had been merely the smokescreen behind which the reactionary parties had been steadily making their preparations for an offensive. They very soon paid for this lack of perception. At midnight on 8th June, all was calm. By 4 o'clock on the morning of the 9th, all members of the Stambuliski government, with the exception of Stambuliski himself, were in prison, and martial law had been declared. The leaders of the coup d'état were the reactionaries Zankov and Rusev, neither of whom had ever been connected with the Macedonian Committee. Too late, Stambuliski tried to rally his peasants to their own defense. Several weeks later, he was surrounded with a few followers in a country house some hundreds of miles from Sofia and captured. Shortly afterwards, and in circumstances which are still obscure, he was shot. It was this way that, as Marukakis talked, Latimer sorted out the facts in his own mind. The Greek was a fast talker, liable, if he saw the chance, to turn from fact to revolutionary theory. Latimer was drinking his third glass of tea when the recital ended. For a moment or two he was silent, and then, at last, he said, "Do you know who put up money for the committee?" Marukakis grinned. "Rumors began to circulate some time after. There were many explanations offered, but, in my opinion, the most reasonable, and incidentally the only one I was able to find any evidence for, was that the money had been advanced by the bank which held the committee's funds. It is called the Eurasian Credit Trust." You mean that this bank advanced the money on behalf of a third party? No, I don't. The bank advanced the money on its own behalf. I happened to find out that it had been badly cut owing to the rise in the value of the lev under the Stambulisky administration. In the early part of 1923, before the trouble started in earnest, the lev doubled its value in 2 months. It was about 800 to the pound sterling, and it rose to about 400. I could look up the actual figures if you are interested. Anyone who had been selling the lev for delivery in 3 months or more, counting on a fall, would face huge losses. The Eurasian Credit Trust was not, nor is for that matter, the sort of bank to accept a loss like that. What sort of bank is it? It is registered in Monaco, which means not only that it pays no taxes in the countries in which it operates, but also that its balance sheet is not published and that it is impossible to find out anything about it. There are lots more than that in Europe. Its head office is in Paris, but it operates in the Balkans. Amongst other things, it finances the clandestine manufacture of heroin in Bulgaria for illicit exports. Do you think that it financed the Zenkov coup d'etat? Possibly. At any rate, it financed the conditions that made the coup d'etat possible. It was an open secret, so to say, that the attempt on Stambulisky and Atanasov at Haskovo was the work of foreign gunmen imported and paid by someone specially for the purpose. A lot of people said too that, although there was a lot of talking and threatening, the trouble would have died down if it had not been for foreign agents provocateurs. This was better than Latimer had hoped. Is there any way in which I can obtain the details of the Haskovo affair? Marukaka shrugged. It is over 15 years old. The police might tell you something, but I doubt it. If I knew what you wanted to know... Latimer made up his mind. Very well. I will tell you why I wanted this information. I would tell you... I bungled that. Very well. I said that I would tell you why I wanted this information, and I will. He went on hurriedly. When I was in Istanbul some weeks ago, I had lunch with a man who happened to be the chief of these Turkish secret police. He was interested in detective stories and wanted me to use a plot he had thought of. We were discussing the respective merits of real and fictional murderers when, to illustrate the point, he read me the dossier of a man named Dimitrios Makropoulos or Dimitrios Talat. The man had been a scoundrel and cutthroat of the worst sort. He had murdered a man in Smyrna and arranged to have another man hanged for it. He had been involved in 3 attempted assassinations, including that of Stambulisky. He had been a French spy, and he had organized a gang of drug peddlers in Paris. The day before I heard of him, he had been found floating dead in the Bosphorus. He had died in the stomach. For some reason or other, I was curious to see him and persuaded the man to take me with him to the mortuary. Dimitrios was there on the table with detection. It is difficult to explain, but now I see that my curiosity about Dimitrios was that of the biographer, rather than the detective. There was an emotional element in it, too. I wanted to explain Dimitrios, to account for him, to understand his mind. Merely to label him with disapproval was not enough. I saw him not as a corpse in a mortuary, but as a man, not as an isolate, a phenomenon, but as a unit in a disintegrating social system. He paused. Well, there you are, Marukakis. That is why I am Sophia. That is why I'm wasting your time with questions about things that happened 15 years ago. I'm gathering material for a biography that will never be written, while I ought to be producing a proper detective story. It sounds unlikely enough to me. To you, it must sound fantastic. But that is my explanation. He sat back feeling very foolish. It would have been better to tell a carefully thought-out lie. Marukakis had been staring at his tea. Now he looked up. What is your private explanation of your interest in this Dimitrios? I've just told you. No, I think not. You deceive yourself. You hope, au fond, that by rationalizing Dimitrios, by explaining him, that you will also explain that disintegrating social system you spoke about. That is very ingenious, but if you will forgive my saying so, a little oversimplified. I don't think that I can accept it. Marukaka shrugged. It is my opinion. It is very good of you to believe me. Why should I not believe you? It is too absurd for disbelief. What do you know of Demetrios in Bulgaria? Well, very little. He was, I am told, an intermediary of an attempt to assassinate Stambuliski. That is to say that there is no evidence to show that he was going to do any shooting himself. He left Athens, wanted by the police for robbery and attempted murder toward the end of November 1922. I found that much out myself. I also believe that he came to Bulgaria by sea. He was known to the Sofia police. I know that because in 1924 the Turkish secret police made inquiries about him in connection with another matter. The police here questioned a woman with whom he was known to have associated. If she were still here and alive, it would be interesting to talk to her. It would. I've traced Demetrios in Smyrna and in Athens, and where he called himself Telidus. But so far I have not talked to anyone who ever saw him alive. Unfortunately, I do not even know the woman's name. The police records would contain it. If you like, I will make inquiries. I cannot ask you to make the trouble. If I like to waste my time reading police records, there is nothing to prevent my doing so, but there is no reason why I should waste your time too. There is plenty to prevent your wasting time reading police records. In the first place, you cannot read Bulgarian.